So welcome to Running Your Stories. I'm here today with Joe, who contacted me on Instagram to talk about his running journey. Known on Instagram as Joe.Athletic. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me. So just thought I'd reach out to you, Kevin, because love the podcast, love what you're doing. And thanks so much for having me on and the opportunity to talk a little bit about what I'm trying to do during this isolation time. I decided to sort of rebrand myself as you said, Joe.Athletic. A bit of, I don't know if you've seen Tiger King, Kevin. Have you been watching Tiger King? Yeah.
I've seen the adverts at least.
Yeah. I was so inspired by Joe.Exotic that I thought I would rebrand myself Joe.Athletic and give myself a bit of a challenge during the isolation.
Yeah.
That all my followers could follow along, a bit of a running challenge.
Excellent. So that's obviously how we met on Instagram there, and challenges during isolation is definitely something that I've been following, interested in, trying to find the right balance between a challenge that drives you to be motivated and do things, but doesn't drive you to bend or break the rules of the isolation. It's not easy to find the right challenge. So
Totally.
Tell us about your challenge then, Joe.
So that's something I definitely thought about as well. But I wanted to make sure, during this time, like everyone around the world and all us runners who love getting out there, it's been hard trying to, I just wanted to have something to focus on, something to work towards, and especially something to help my just a bit lighthearted to help my followers get through this as well. I don't have too many followers. I'm a bit of I'd call myself a micro influencer at best. But yeah, essentially I decided I'll try and run a 10 kilometers in 40 minutes or less. So it's a challenge I'm calling Joe Goes Sub 40. Joe Goes Sub 40. And I'm a bit, to be honest, Kevin, I'm a bit of a weekend warrior. I work full time, but I love my running, and I just thought, hey, let's try and get through this with a big challenge. Like you said, that's like, obviously respects the guidelines. I'm here in New Zealand at the moment, so I'm from New Zealand. My wife and I live in Paris, though, in France. But we came over to New Zealand on holiday and got kind of stuck here for a few weeks extra. But it's been really cool over here because we can obviously get out and exercise during the day and things like that. So just trying to make the most of that and put together a challenge that pushes me. I've never run a sub 40 minute 10K before. I've done about 41 minutes. So it's a big push, but I'm loving it so far.
Oh, so you're sitting there, your PB's around 41 minutes at the moment.
Yeah. So it's quite a big, obviously got to drop a minute there. And when I did my 41 minutes, last year I ran a couple of marathons, did the Paris marathon in April. And I think it was I was checking out my Strava and my, my running stats recently. It was in the lead up to that in about March, I think, last year. So about this time last year, I know a little bit before this last year, I was pretty fit leading up to marathon. So yeah, trying to get back there, but it's a cool challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to admit, I've not done a kind of focused 10K myself to sort of see where I'm at. What's your 5K time like?
Yeah, so I've done, I know I've done a 1925 before.
Yep.
But I did a couple of weeks ago test out my 5K pace, and I was at like about 2011. So I had still a bit of work to do a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But look, I put in a good few weeks of training, and it's going to hurt, Kevin. There's no two ways about it. The 10K is going to hurt a lot, but that's running, right?
Yes, it is, because like I say, when you're pushing yourself and you're kind of achieving the best that you can achieve, it's always going to hurt. If you're at those 5K, 10K, half marathon distances, you've given it pretty close to the max all the way through, and that hurt really builds up fast. And if you're running ultra distances, yeah, you're running much slower, and the first 5K you might just be starting to warm up, but you get that hurt in a big way later on. So
yeah,
well,
it's a different thing.
It is, but it's all about to achieve the best you can achieve. It's, as you say, it's going to hurt.
Totally. That's what I love about that's what I love about 10K. It's kind of like, it's a nice distance in terms of both speed and a bit of endurance as well, because you can't just smash it the whole time. You need to be focused on your form and really strategic about it. But at the same time, you have to be quick the whole time. So obviously I'm looking at like running 4-minute Ks. I'm not sure what that is. Do you guys do miles more than Ks, or?
Most people over here do miles, but I work in Ks myself, so I'm very comfortable talking in Ks.
Yeah. So 4-minute Ks is like, like 15 kilometers an hour?
Yeah, which I think is around 6-minute miles.
6-minute miles.
That probably sounds
yeah. So no, it's pretty quick, and but no, I'm really enjoying the challenge. Instagram is amazing, Kevin. I just sort of as a joke started tagging New Balance, and I made a video for New Balance, and I said, hey guys, would you think about sponsoring me some shoes? And long story short, they sent me some shoes.
Cool.
For the challenge. It's freaking awesome. So I got a new pair of they're called New Balance 1080 V10s, and I'm instantly feeling so much faster propulsion. As well as this beautiful hoodie. Look at this.
Nice.
So yeah, the casual wear as well as the performance wear.
That's really. I mean, it's not quite as good as my hoodie.
Oh,
Lakeland 100. But I had to pay for mine.
So. Yeah, you had to pay with a lot of pain. I didn't.
But that's really cool. So I guess that's the New Balance in New Zealand, is it? That's sort of
that's right. Yeah, so they're such cool people. They we got a lot of my friends to sort of reshare my video that I made, and just amazing to see how you can how these things can happen these days with Instagram and social media, and they just replied and said, oh look, we love what you're doing, and we'd love to be part of it. So received a package on my doorstep a few days later. It was so awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the great things, I say, especially about Instagram and the sort of it's only really the running community on Instagram that I know. I presume it's the same for other things on Instagram, but everyone on there seems to be very supportive of each other, sharing things, chatting, talking to random strangers from the other side of the world, and inviting them onto podcasts and things. It just seems to be that's the way it is. Everybody, because I'd heard before I went on Instagram myself that it was a lot of kind of fakeness, and of course, I'll go for a run, and at times I might be running past a scrapyard and it looks pretty grim, and I'll take a photograph when I'm next to some beautiful hillside or some nice flowers or something. But I think we all know we do that, and it's not about trying to lie or fake anything. It's just trying to say, look how great things are. You can be inspired by this.
Totally. I think I'd agree. It's like you can approach it how you like to, and like you said, there is a lot of like stock looking stuff on there, like beautiful people posing and stuff. But I think there's also really authentic like running profiles and people who are just sharing their stories, and that's really awesome. I think it kind of brings like, I love every running community I've been a part of, like running groups and stuff, it's just such great camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I think it just makes that more global, and it means we can meet each other and have this conversation even though we're on the other side of the world, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. So it's one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the running community in New Zealand, but from what you're saying, I also want to ask you about the running community in Paris. So
Yeah.
and how do they compare?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been living in Paris for about 3 years, and yeah, got involved in a few different running communities that I've found on Facebook. So there's a one that goes from just right by my house on Monday nights. It's called Let's Run Paris. Shout out to Let's Run Paris.
Cool.
And but there's a bunch of like really cool just groups that run like once a week from different areas. And the cool thing about Paris is it's such an international city as well. I had one of my best mates living in Paris at the time at that group, and honestly, you just meet people from everywhere who all share this passion for running, which is so cool. New Zealand's similar. Like I'd been part of a really cool crew here called Tempo Fit, and it's kind of like it's sort of like a coaching setup as well. It's like a boot camp type coaching setup, and that was always amazing. A guy called Hayden Shearman runs that, and yeah, just real cool community, and obviously like you're kind of paying for that, so people are real dedicated to it, and you get to know the people really well who are doing it. But no, I think that's the cool thing about running, and I think that's what I've seen during this confinement is just like the barriers to entry are so low. Is like you just need a pair of shoes, and you chuck them on your feet, and you can get out there. And so many of my friends who weren't runners before this confinement time have kind of been out there challenging themselves and giving it a go as well. So it's so cool to see how running can be, it's just like a natural human thing, and it's so easy just to start.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you raised there, actually, about people trying running during this whole lockdown confinement kind of thing that's been going on, because, as you say, people over here in the UK, the main activities people are doing is walking, running, and cycling. Now, to do cycling, you need to go and buy a bike. The shops aren't open. It's very difficult to buy a bike right now. But most people have a pair of running shoes that they've worn in the gym or to play squash or something, and they can put those on and go out for a little jog, and then things go on from there. That's certainly how I started.
That's very cool. I don't know if you've been. I don't know if it's been happening in the UK. I think it probably has. But here in New Zealand, there's been another challenge that's been happening. I think it's called Run 5. Run 5, Give 5, Nominate 5. And I've seen that going everywhere. That's been so cool. Like a few of my friends tagged me in that who I knew weren't runners before. And getting out there running a 5K, giving $5 to a charity of your choice, and then nominating 5 of your friends to do the same. So I think that's just, and that's really what I was trying to do as well with Joe Goes Sub 40, is just give people something to follow during a time when they, when everything else is on hold. It's like, let's all just like get together and do something, follow something that brings a little bit of joy and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like you say, so some of these challenges are really cool. The Run 5, Give 5, Nominate 5, that's happening over here. There's also been a big push with because the London Marathon would have been last weekend.
Right.
And I think that was coincidentally would have been either, I think it might have been the 26th of April or maybe the 25th, but they did a big charity push for do something that's 26.2. So obviously, some people could go and run a marathon during the lockdown time. I can't. I feel it's a bit too long to be out. I'm not quite fast enough to go and run a sub 3 hour marathon without a lot of work. But lots of people have done like 26 hill reps, or some people have done 26 push-ups, or just 26 of anything. That's been a really big charity thing over here. The running club that I run with have raised it's over £8,000 now for one of the local it's a cancer hospice that look after people who are suffering with cancer, and they usually have a lot of fundraising events going on all the time, and all those events, of course, are cancelled. So they're really down on funds at the moment. So that's been a really good thing. But I think it's also worth mentioning, like both those fantastic things that we've talked about there. I've not actually got involved with them myself because it just hasn't quite fitted with me managing work, kids, just keep myself sane. It just hasn't quite fitted. And so again, these are fantastic inspirational things, and people have been doing brilliant stuff. But if somebody can't bring themselves to get involved, that's fine also.
That's totally fine.
Yeah,
I think we've all, like at the moment, I think it's all just like we've got to do what keeps us sane, and like this is total unprecedented times. It's like
exactly.
If running helps, that's great, but yeah, everyone's got to look after themselves.
Yeah,
it made me think as well what you were saying about inspirational stories. I've been following a little bit this guy, this 100-year-old guy in the UK who's been walking around his garden as well. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of inspirational stories all over the place, I guess.
Yeah. He's raised like tens of millions of pounds for NHS, I think.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'm just busy kicking myself because his name isn't springing to mind to name him, because he is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, what a legend.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is now a colonel. He's been promoted by the Queen.
He's been promoted. I saw that. That's
on his 100th birthday. Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I'll make a note, because I'll put it in some show notes or something.
Yeah.
To make up for my lack of memory.
No.
So onto your 10K challenge. I've had a quick look through your Strava and some of your posts on Instagram and things, and it looks like you've had a bit of a training plan, bit of a strategy going on. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So through the years, I've met a lot of really good runners, better runners than myself, who I've kind of relied on who are just great friends as well, and who I've kind of relied on to like give me advice about how I tackle this. So really, like early on, actually my great friend, the American friend who I met in Paris, he's moved back to the States now, but he's run like a 2:46 marathon, so he's like really good. And I talked to him. I said, what training should I be doing? Like, what sort of sessions are the best for this? And he basically said, you want to run 3 different types of sessions during the week. You want to run in intervals especially. So what I'm doing a lot of at the moment is like, once a week at least, is 9 times 400 meters at close to sort of like 3:30 pace, so like pretty flat out, and then finish it off with 1 800 meter at about the same pace, but I often fade on the 800 meter, to be honest. But that's really good. Just like that's even probably further than lactate threshold pace for me, but it's just pace, and so you're only taking about a minute and a half break between each of the efforts, so you don't have heaps of time to recover, but it's a great workout. And so that's kind of the first one. And then I'm doing obviously sort of tempo runs where it's like a little slower, probably around like 4:10s, 4:20s minute per kilometer, for like 2 or 3K at a time, maybe 4 sometimes, so you're going 10 to 15 minutes at that tempo pace to build up that lactate threshold and get used to running, constant focus on the form as well. So you've got the intervals, tempo, and I'm obviously building in a long run every week, where I'm getting up to like 20, 21 Ks slow, just plotted out really. And then so the advice I was given is really don't ever do 2 of those workouts back to back, but between them, just have a filler run where you're doing like, 8 to 12K slow, intentionally slow, and just focusing on getting a few more Ks under the belt. So I'm hitting like the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks I've been doing between like 60 and 70 Ks a week. And I already had a decent base in there with that. But yeah, it's been a cool project.
Yeah, it's as I say, that's what I gathered from sort of looking at your Strava, is that it was well structured, and it's got the sort of key elements in there with the as you say, the intervals, hitting the lactate threshold, the tempo run, the long run, and then the really sort of slow kind of recovery runs. And then the volume gives you the big increases on running efficiency, just
Totally.
by volume of running, which can take 5-10% down on your time, just with running efficiency. So that's really good. One of the things,
what's different about it for me, sorry, Kim. I think what's different about it for me as well is that, like, it's the first time I've really tried to train that pace as well. Like I've been more focused on like the marathon distance before, and that kind of distance where it's like you're just wanting to build that big base and like a pretty steady pace. But I haven't done as many intervals as I have now before. So it's cool kind of working on that pace, because obviously in the 10K, like I was saying, you need kind of a bit of a balance of like real, speed as well as a bit of endurance as well. So it's a cool mix of those two.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were saying about the marathons, and I predominantly run ultras, so I don't do nearly enough speed work. I'm kind of looking at what you're doing there with the intervals and thinking, that would be really good for me to potentially even drop a little bit of mileage in favor of that. Because what I've found kind of coming into this period of time is I'd been doing a lot of strength work, which, because I had been training for a big race in June, and so I'd done a big kind of strength training block, and really that was the sort of absolute focus. But now I can't go to the gym because the gym's closed.
Right.
And I'm the trainer I use in the gym, he's actually has some really good bodyweight strength YouTube videos now.
Cool.
Hopefully he's going to agree to do a podcast, and then we can make it easier to share them with everybody.
Nice.
His videos.
So you were like in the gym literally with weights and stuff. Now you're doing a lot more body weight.
So I mean, I was like deadlifting sort of 80 kilograms.
Wow.
Decent weight. Just adding strength. But then what I found is that over the past 4 weeks or so, I've basically just run more for my mind than specifically for training, because all the races are cancelled and things. And so I've still been sensible about it, not just gone crazy and started doing lots of mediocre runs where you don't get any gains at all. It's still predominantly low heart rate and some and then I do hill work generally rather than speed work.
Right.
But
hills are so good as well.
Yeah. What I found is that because I've built that strength, that now switching that over to almost pure running, I'm just I'm going out because I also do time restricted eating. So I go out fasted to do a run. I may be 12 to 14 hours fasted and do a run at a low heart rate, and I'm setting PBs. So it'll be interesting to see what I could do, if I downed a load of tailwind or something and really went for it.
Yeah. What's the thinking about what's the thinking around the fasting?
So it's the interesting person to look up on this is Dr. Rhonda Patrick. and Dr. Sachin Panda. They do some fabulous podcast type interviews on YouTube and places, and they found that there's a couple of reasons why I do it. Well, three reasons, in fact. One is fasting is really, really good for recovery, because while you're
Right.
not eating and you're not digesting, your body starts to switch in recovery processes. And so, as you know, when you're training, the faster you can recover, the more you can train. So it's partly about recovery, and then it's also about, for ultras, I want to be as fat adapted as possible, because I can just burn body fat and run. Technically, I could probably should be able to run 100 miles on body fat.
Wow.
I wouldn't like to try and do it because it wouldn't be very comfortable and I don't think it would leave you in a very nice state. But technically, should be possible. And so, by running at low heart rate when you're fasted, you're forcing your body to burn body fat.
Right.
Because there's no carbs left in your body, so it has to burn fat.
Right.
The interesting thing about that is that when you then come back to kind of high intensity workouts and you put carbs in your body, it kind of feels like you're supercharged, because it's a bit like nitrous in your car. You know, you're not used to having that fuel source there, and you suddenly fly. And then the final factor is they've found in research that when you get to 14 hours fasted, your cardiovascular system improves even without exercise. So I'm kind of thinking I want all the gains I can get. So that's what got me into it. It's very much something, you know, if anybody looks into it, look into it properly. Go step by step. Don't just dive in.
Because I'm sure there would be a wrong way to do that.
Well, generally the wrong way is going in like cold turkey and just thinking, I can just do that because I heard Kevin say it, and one of my friends has tried it. Had a bad time. I don't advise it.
Kevin, you told me this would be good. It was horrible.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, well, no, actually, what I said was, I ate a really high quality carb based diet for like 2-3 years. Then I started reducing the carbs. Then I started doing time restricted eating. It was a 3-4 year project, you know.
Right.
Now I'm used to it, and it works great. But it's not something to try and do in a couple of weeks, you know. It's just
Totally.
Yeah. So it's your training, like I say, to me sounds really good. How are you finding because what sort of weekly mileage were you doing before this? How quickly have you ramped up to that kind of distance?
I think I probably increased it like by 30-odd%. I was probably around like average like 40 Ks. Depends. I mean, I'm kind of, like I said, I'm a bit of a weekend warrior. So probably, you know, I have a full-time job and sometimes it gets really busy. So I kind of let off the gas a little bit. I'm also the kind of person who, unless I have a challenge or a race, I really struggle to get out there just for the sake of it. So part of it as well is like, if I know I've got a race coming up, or I know I'm going to have to do this thing on a specific date and try and run like 10K in 40 minutes, that's going to make me get out there and actually run more. So I have, I've been pretty conscious about like, not just like you said, like ramping it up overnight and going, God, I think we've all made that mistake as amateur runners. Like, I'm just going to run all the time, and that's never good. So, no, I've made a bit of a conscious effort to ramp it up pretty slowly over quite a few weeks, even before I started sort of sharing it publicly.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to touch on that. To be honest, I could guess that you've done that simply because you're not talking about being in pain and injured and these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But it's just really useful for listeners to hear about some of those kind of key steps in transition from yeah, like you say, we all get a bit busy with our jobs at times and can end up far more sedentary than we'd like. And you suddenly try to ramp
Yeah,
up running, and things can go wrong. So,
yeah, definitely. It's so important though to like, yeah, look after your body. And I think one thing I've been trying to do as well is just like listen to the internal coach a little bit as well. Like, I
yeah,
think sometimes you can try and put your mind on mute sometimes if it hurts and be like, no, I'm just going to overcome it. But I think there's times when you do have to listen to it and actually pull out of a really hard transition if you're just really not feeling it. I haven't sort of felt that too much the last few weeks, but in my experience, like, it's so much better doing that than just pushing through and getting yourself injured. So I've been thinking about that as well.
yeah. I'd agree with that, and I've been through that experience, both sides, both pulling out of things and trying to push through it, and ended up hurt. I've done it both ways. So,
Yeah.
do you? How do you find that sort of balance in there? Because I think it's something that everybody wrestles with. I haven't heard a
Yeah.
perfect way of doing it. What's your internal
Yeah.
monologue like when you're trying to decide? Do I pull the plug
Yeah.
on the session, or am I just being lazy? It's
Yeah, totally. I think the more you run, the more you get a sense of different types of pain and like different types of feelings and what you can push through and what you can't. I think that, like, I've been pretty into running for a good 7-8 years now. So I think looking back from when I first started, I would have pushed through a lot more things than I do now. Um, and I think just thinking about it more long term, like you're talking about preparing your diet over like 3 years, I think it's handy to have that kind of thinking pattern with your running as well. As like, you don't have to achieve everything now and like become Superman overnight. Like, and if you try to, you're probably just going to injure yourself. So, so I think I've just got used to different kinds of feelings, and I kind of, when there's something on, some kind of joint problem or something, or when the pain is not like the kind of pain that you should be pushing through. That's when I try and pull back these days.
yeah, yeah. I agree with what you're saying. I kind of just keep searching for an explanation that we could give to a completely novice runner and say,
Yeah,
these are the rules. But I agree with you. It seems to come with experience, because it's
yeah,
very difficult to know what somebody else is feeling. An example I had in the last week, I had some very bizarre, very sharp pain in my ankle, but it was completely superficial. It was like a paper cut,
right,
kind of.
right.
I It was making me wince on it every time I stepped, but I knew in the morning I'd get up and I'd go running and it would be completely fine.
Wow.
How I could know that, I have no idea. There's no real way to explain that to somebody who isn't an experienced runner. That
Totally.
you can have a pain like that and you can think, yeah, this is really superficial. Yet you could have another pain which is a much duller pain, that because of where it is and how it feels, you kind of know that one's a problem.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
it's trying to find a way to explain that to people that haven't experienced it. I think it's not easy.
for sure. I think it's good. I think that's when being in a community of runners or like a club and stuff can be really cool, because then you've got people maybe more experienced than you who you can just talk through it about and be like,
Yeah,
hey, I'm feeling this. Is that is that something you've ever felt, or is that something that I should really think about, getting treated? Or that can be helpful.
yeah, yeah. Although usually the Facebook forums are not the place to ask.
True.
See some interesting answers on there. Yeah.
Right. No, you're right.
So, one question I had noted down here for you, from this recent sort of focus and you say it's the first time you've really focused on running at this kind of pace, and it sounds like you've maybe one of your most kind of dedicated periods of training as well. obviously I don't know all your history, but it sounds quite dedicated. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned from this?
Yeah, good question. What's the most surprising I've learned? I think one really cool thing, it's not really, it's sort of not so much running based, but I think just being able to share it on like Instagram or other forums is like, people are interested in following your progress. And that's been really cool. It's like people are always missing, people I know and people, my friends as well, and people who've just started following me have kind of just given me encouragement and enjoying following the process of like my training and stuff like that. And especially during a time like this, I think people enjoy, having something to look forward to and work towards, and to inspire them to do that as well. So it's just, I think that's just the little thing that I'm trying to do, is just show people how I'm working towards something during such a weird time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think like I've also seen that, you can, like in this type of thing, I think you can, if you are dedicated and you stick the course over quite a few weeks, you can actually progress pretty quickly, and you can surprise yourself about how fast, you are making progress, and your performance is changing, and you start to feel stronger and stronger, and that's been really cool.
Yeah, cool answers. So yeah, your second answer, to be honest, is what I almost guessed that you might say, because I think anybody that puts together, a well structured,
without overdoing it, obviously, like.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, are you just breaking up a little there? So I think I was talking over you. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just saying your second answer, surprising yourself, I think is what happens when you put together a well-structured program and tackle things in the right way. It is really surprising what you can achieve. It's really cool as well. Your first answer about finding that people are really interested, and that's because that's really what the podcast's about. It's once I got into seriously into running, I just loved hearing all the stories of how people had really done things they didn't believe they could do before they did.
Totally.
And I thought, there's just fantastic stories, and I'd never heard all these stories before, and that's why I tried to share them.
So cool.
Yeah.
And like, there's so many people who will message and say, I could never imagine running that far or that fast. And I always like to say to them, like, you could actually do it as well. Like, if you just, get yourself a pair of shoes, like get yourself a plan, and like just get out there and start running. You'll be so surprised at how after a while, if you couldn't run 2K, you'll be running 2K, and then you'll be running 5, and you can knock off these goals if you just stick the path a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was when I was first doing like 5K parkrun, there was a friend of mine who was like right up at the front of the pack, a guy I used to work with, and he said to me, the biggest thing that you need to do right now is just believe that you can do it. Because at that time, I was doing 5K and I was walking part of it, because that's where I was at. And he said, of course you can run all the way around. Just believe. At that point, from where I was at, it was nothing about any physical training at all. It was all about just believing in yourself.
Totally.
But
you start to realize so much of it is in your mind, like that's the biggest muscle that you've got to. That's the biggest running muscle, is like if you can just control your mind and kind of know when to switch it off and on and stuff. That's half the battle.
Yeah. As you say,
because sometimes it's screaming at you.
Yeah, it's switching it off and on, because the other thing that we also do as runners and make the mistake with is getting to the start line of a race and convincing ourselves that since yesterday we've suddenly got much faster. and we can set off with the guys at the front end. So
Yeah.
it can go both ways. It can hold us back, but it can also make us do some crazy things at times.
Totally.
The other thing that I know you mentioned to me when we were first talking as well, that I wanted to come back to, is you mentioned about having fun, and I think that's really important in this isolation kind of lockdown kind of time. That it's great having some serious goals and working hard, but at the same time we've got to be trying to stay a bit light-hearted about things. So how are you keeping things fun?
Yeah, well, I think it definitely shows. Like, I fully agree. Like, I think I always just love having a good laugh in my life as well, and I think there's no time where we need that more in the world than right now, where people are like, pretty stressed and pretty anxious about what's happening. So that's kind of part of why I've tried to do it. And I think I've just, along with my running, I've tried to, like I mentioned, I got sponsored by New Balance, but it all sort of started as a bit of a joke in terms of like seeing, could I get a pair of shoes for this? So I've since I got that, I felt like I was on a bit of a roll. So I wanted to get a nutritional sponsor. And I don't know, Kevin, you'd probably be able to tell me if this was a good idea, because I don't know if this food would be good for running, but I reached out to a brand called, do you know Old El Paso, the Mexican food? Yeah. So I reached out to Old El Paso. I made a video for them. I said, hey, would you like to sponsor me in pursuit of my 40-minute 10K? They haven't replied, but it was mainly just to have a bit of fun,
Yeah.
And now, come to think of it, I don't think that eating a lot of Mexican food and trying to run fast would be a great idea.
Well, have you heard of Courtney Dauwalter?
Who's that, sorry?
Courtney Dauwalter.
I haven't.
American lady. So she did the Moab 240 last year, and she finished 10 hours ahead of the first place guy.
Oh my gosh.
And she mostly eats nachos before she runs and during running. So you're right that, if you speak to a nutritionist, they'll tell you, absolutely eating Mexican food beforehand probably isn't the best idea, but Courtney does. So
amazing.
if that's what
I was also looking into, part of my rationale was also the, I think in that, that book, Born to Run, I think everyone knows that book, Born to Run. It talks about these, is it the people in Mexico? Taruera?
Yes.
Who just run ultras for fun and just run ultras every day.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, if, they're probably eating, I don't know if they're eating tacos, but that was part of it as well.
Yeah, I think if you look in close detail as to what they eat, it's slightly different to Old El Paso, but
Old El. So no, anyway, that was just like, your question was about having fun with it, so that was
absolutely.
Just a bit of fun.
It's great. I admire your willingness to put yourself out there, and it's another great thing actually. I think it's one of the reasons why you will get lots of followers, is that people are, and this is something I've been finding with doing the podcast and with my own running. People are really inspired by the Courtney Dauwalters of the world. People that can go and set new course records and set world records and things. But people are also massively inspired by people that are kind of closer to them, that they can relate to more. Like your target of running at 10K in 40 minutes. It's not breaking any world records, but it's a really good challenge. It's not an easy thing to do, and I think a lot of people can respect the challenge of that. I haven't.
It's kind of, I like to think it's kind of reasonably relatable in a way, because it's like, you and I, we still have full-time jobs, and we still face a lot of the same stuff, but we're giving it a good tilt. And I think you're right. It's cool to get that feedback.
Yeah. So when is it that you're doing it? that you're going
Yeah,
to?
so I've set the date for the 16th of May here in New Zealand. So I'm going to start at 8 in the morning on the 16th of May. And I'm actually going to live stream it on my Instagram as well.
Cool.
So you can even watch me give it a go.
Yeah, I was just considering trying it at the same time. I have not run a sub 40
Nice.
10K.
Wow.
I
What
think
have
I
you
can.
done before?
Probably about 43 minutes.
Yeah.
The first
Nice.
half of that was up a hill.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the difference.
I think I could, yeah. And like on Sunday, I ran, was it 1 hour 45 for 20K?
Oh, wow, nice.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I think it's maybe possible. I'll
Yeah.
have to decide whether I'm going to try and run at the same time or just the same day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'll be a bit of fun.
Totally. What sort of distances do you normally do? The real ultra length?
Yeah, so I kind of like the 100-mile distance.
100 mile. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So they usually end up more like 170K, 170 odd K. But
what sort of times have you done in that distance?
The quickest I've done so far was just under 28 hours. But
oh my god,
that was around the Lake District in the UK. That's what the hoodie's from, the Lakeland 100. So that's quite that's 6,000 meters of ascent.
Oh wow.
So,
that's a whole nother thing.
yeah. So yeah, you see, I don't do much fast running. I think my 5K PB it's sub 19 minutes, about 18:46, I think.
Yeah.
But that
Nice.
was a little while ago. I've because at the moment I'm mainly running for sanity, so I generally get out on the trails, run anywhere from 10 to 30K at a time, and mostly just relax and have fun and enjoy the greenery.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think I could probably wind myself up to a fast 10K in just under 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, you'll probably end up doing my challenge with me and beating me, eh?
I don't know. I was feeling. I was looking at my time on Sunday when I was running the first half of this 20K, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm doing okay here. But the first half of it was more downhill than uphill, and then the second half was all uphill. And yeah. It's quite hilly around here. So the course that you're running on, is that quite flat or?
Yeah, it's reasonably flat. There's a couple of ups and downs. So I'm staying out at my folks' place. My parents' place is out at a beach called Piha in just close to Auckland in New Zealand, on the west coast, and it's a beautiful place. I'm just kind of the one thing. Obviously, well, it's kind of the same for everyone. You got to stick close to your house during this confinement time. So yeah, it's just the same route over and over and over. But reasonably flat. It's on the coast though, so you get some pretty wicked breezes sometimes.
Yep.
So that can be a bit of a challenge. But hope we get a good day for it on the 16th.
Yeah, I hope so for you.
And because it's an out and back type course, it's like if you got the wind at your back one way, you got to turn around and headwind the other way. So
yeah, I think one of the things I've started telling myself, because where I live it's quite hilly, and that means that when you're on top of the hills you get a lot of wind, and then none when you're down in the valleys. When I get the wind in my face, I just keep thinking it's blowing all this oxygen into my lungs. It's and I just keep trying to think positive like that. And just,
it's a good perspective.
Yeah, it's helping me breathe. Don't think about the extra hard work, but it's helping me breathe and just focus on that. It's
nice.
It's good.
That's
fun.
really good. Yeah, I was thinking about trying to find on race day another course that's like just all downhill, but I think that might be cheating a little bit.
There is because there's something else on that somebody's organising locally, because we're coming up to the anniversary of Robert Bannister's 4-minute mile.
Oh, wow.
And so there's talk about people going out to do their fastest mile on that day. And there are some kind of official rules about how much downhill you're allowed to have for it to be an official time.
Yeah.
So maybe worth checking those rules out, because if you're within like the international sort of guidance, then it's fair game.
True. Yeah, no, good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Cool. Right. Well, I think I've got through my questions. Is there anything else that you have in mind that you'd like to add in? Anything else to shout out to or anything?
Not particularly. I think I covered everything. I wanted to get a good mention of New Balance because they were so good to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But nice. Yeah, just the main thing is it's on the 16th of May at 8. And if you follow me on Instagram, 16th of May at 8 in the morning in New Zealand. So I'm not sure what UK time. That'll be in the evening on the 15th.
Yes. So, yeah, of course. It'll be the... yes, it will. It'll be 9 p.m. on the 15th over here.
9 p.m.
Yep.
And if you follow me on Instagram, Joe.Athletic, you can even watch the whole thing. Commentated. I've got one of my friends who's going to commentate it like it's sports commentary, because we're all missing live sports.
Yes.
So much.
Oh, well, that's definitely going to be interesting. And obviously when this podcast goes out, you'll be tagged in it and everything will be shared. And I've noted a few hashtags that I'll check with you before we put it out as well. So people will be able to pick up your handle and everything from the podcast going out. So
brilliant.
That's cool. Yeah. So I think I'll probably run at a different time to you.
Yeah, because that's
like commentary live.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
that sounds like good fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that'd be great.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's absolutely brilliant to chat with you, Joe. It's actually surprisingly difficult finding people that want to talk during this kind of lockdown time, because partly I think some people are a bit stressed and some people think they're not doing interesting things. So it's great that you're doing something interesting, something worthwhile, inspirational.
Yeah.
And great.
No, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Awesome. Do you know when you'll publish it at all? Not too sure.
I try to get them out as soon as possible, so I'd expect to get this out tomorrow. I wouldn't say it today.
Oh, awesome.
It's 11 p.m. my time, so I'm going to go to bed after this.
Yeah. So, no pressure. Yeah, fair enough.
but yeah, no, I like to get these out as soon as possible. I think the only time that I didn't do was I recorded 3 in one day, one time, and staggered them over a period of weeks, which was really cool, because that was it's a great set of interviews with a good friend of mine that I met actually doing the Lakeland 100, Anna Troop. Was an interview with her daughter, who became the youngest person to finish the Javelinage 100, so the 100-mile race in the US, with her partner, talking about him climbing Everest and all kinds of interesting stuff. And then her daughter interviewed me. So it was that was an interesting day. So yeah, there's a few interesting episodes kicking around from different people.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I watched a few of them. They're really good.
Yeah. So you're the second person in New Zealand that I've interviewed. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
There's a good friend of mine who's right down on the southern tip on the South Island. She's actually in the police now.
Okay.
She's won a couple of mountain marathons in New Zealand. So
wow.
One of the early episodes, if you scroll back through.
Cool. Yeah. Will do.
Yeah, I have a listen to her. Completely crazy.
Yeah. Nuts. Amazing.
Yeah.
You got to be a bit crazy to do ultras, I think, man.
Definitely.
I don't know if I would do that. I think 42K is far enough for me.
Yeah, yeah, I can stay that way for a while. Ultras is, predominantly an old man's game, so you've got a few years to go.
Right. Okay. Good stuff.
Right.
And I've watched a few like documentaries and stuff about like Marathon des Sables and
Yes.
stuff like that. It's just mental. It's absurd.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think now. There are some. There's a couple of older videos available now about the spine race. You should check those ones out.
What's it called?
The spine race.
Spine race. Okay.
Yes.
Don't know that.
That's the kind of the big scary one around here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the one that I DNF'd from in January.
Oh, serious?
Yeah.
Wow. How far did you get?
About 120 miles.
Wow.
I was less than halfway. So.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That's a big one.
That's crazy. Cool.
Right. Well, let's leave it there, and I'll catch up with you kind of offline again before the event, and then we'll
Awesome.
we'll see. And I'll certainly be following you on Instagram.
Yeah. Perfect.
Excellent. Right.
Great to chat to you.
Yeah, and you. And
awesome.
Let's say officially live. Very best of luck. I know you're going to smash this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Cheers, Joe.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye. And that was Running Your Stories with Joe Sweeney. I'm really looking forward to seeing him try and do 10K in under 40 minutes on the 16th of May, 8 a.m. New Zealand time. Fantastic challenge that he has going on there during these difficult times that we're having throughout the world, and someone great to be inspired by. So go and check out Joe on Instagram at Joe.Athletic, and I think Joe Goes Sub 40 is a hashtag that you can follow on there as well. We'll be posting all this up in the show notes. So if you've got an interesting story like Joe's, let us know about it. We'll let you know how Joe gets on Instagram, Facebook, the usual channels. Love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.